Welcome, everyone. Nice to see ya. And welcome back to class number two. We're going to hop into habit number two to help you feel more calm and more joyful right away. But before we do, I want to check in briefly about how last night's training is hitting home for you or how you put it into practice. So, what I'd like to do is get your feedback in the chat, whether it's on Facebook or Zoom or watching this later, and let us know one thing that you noticed, because the habit was to start noticing and do something about something that isn't going well in life or something that you're desiring but you weren't paying attention to. So I'd like you to chime in with what you started thinking about that maybe you hadn't or hadn't until yesterday been paying attention to, because we have to pay attention to what we want to improve, right? Otherwise, nothing changes. And what it is that you think you want to do about it, or a first step. So if you want to share anything like that, you are welcome to in the chat so that you can get more out of this training. That's why I encourage you to engage. And then we're going to hop in and I'm going to start teaching on this second habit. And it is a good one. Share a good story from last year in my life. I really appreciated everyone's engagement last night, and I'm really looking forward to being able to take you to the next level tonight so that you can develop some habits that are really effective in building calmness and joy and maintaining them. So, Sonia, you've been feeling underappreciated for all your hard work at home running the household. Your hard work seems to be going unnoticed, and your boundaries, house rules, are not respected. Awesome realization. Fabulous insight. That gives power, right? That's exciting. So your small step, you're a fast typer. Christy, on the other hand, are you working on a, a balancing platform? Your small step is to communicate this to your husband, which isn't a totally small step, right? But it's a first step, and figure out this next step, perhaps how to communicate this to the kids. Oh, great! You posted it on Facebook. Oh, in our group, you mean? I was like, whoa, she's going out there. She means business. She's telling people. I'm drinking this incredible. I decided to steep tea in cold water tonight before our call, and it's chocolate mint cold, which is really nice because it's a really hot one over here in the Comox Valley. So let me pull up my notes here. So just give me 1 second. All right. So I'm going to share with you the topic for tonight, the habit, if you're taking notes. And I also am going to share with you a very personal story from last year that was quite embarrassing for a while, and I didn't want to tell it. So you get to hear it. So tonight's topic is believing and trusting in what you can't see instead of trying to control your circumstances, or maybe trying to control others. So let me give you, before I tell you my story, some examples. And this is really insightful if you're not quite sure if you're controlling. I wasn't sure. I didn't know that I was controlling sometimes in my life, and realized, oh my goodness, I have some controlling tendencies I need to work on that I wasn't even aware of. So hopefully these examples of controlling habits help you identify in your own life where you may be trying to manipulate something so it goes your way, or so that you don't have to look at what's uncomfortable in your life and do anything about it, because that feels more uncomfortable to you. So, here's some of the signs you might be trying to control your life, your situation, or the outcome. You might be obsessively planning. So, do you spend a lot of time planning and not doing anything about your situation that you've been thinking about for a while or that's been bothering you for a while? So, that holds you back from the actual making change happen. Because if we're spending all this time, which is a waste of time, planning just so that we can feel more peaceful inside because we know what to expect, well, we never know everything that's going to happen. We never know exactly how things are going to turn out. So it's actually a stalling mechanism and a sign of control. Second thing is obsessively checking social media, obsessively checking emails, obsessively checking bank account, obsessively checking in on people. You may be trying to control an outcome if you are displaying that sign in your life. I got four more here for you. Sometimes we are displaying signs of being overly controlling, usually due to fear, by having an overly busy schedule. So if your schedule is chock a block full, then, oh, just magic. You don't have time to look at what might come up if you had more time for yourself. You don't have to deal with the uncomfortable situations or people that you find in your life that you find yourself dealing with that are causing low grade or anxiety, or maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe it's a 5 or maybe it's higher. But if you're busy, you don't have to deal with it. So you control your schedule so that you don't have enough downtime ever to make action happen or even to know what's going on. There was a woman in my office and she told me she wanted help regulating her nervous system and she wanted to feel more calm. And she wasn't quite sure about why, like the root of why she wasn't feeling calm. She described it as feeling scrambled inside. And she realized, it took her a while in the first session, but she realized that she actually wasn't being honest with herself about how afraid she was for a family member, and she felt out of control. And so she was very social. She walked her dog a lot. She went for exercise classes. So from the outside of her life, it looked like she was a really happy person, successful in her work life. But the scrambled feeling, like a big ball of pen mess on the page, was due to the fact that she didn't have enough free time in her schedule to actually focus on these things that needed her attention so that eventually she could feel calm on a regular basis, even when this family member wasn't able to be, like in her circle. She wasn't able to feel that peace because that family member was safe. We need to learn how to maintain our peace and that peace not be dependent on circumstances. That's an art. So another sign you might be controlling is trying to shape your children into who you want them to be, or trying to shape your family into who you want them to be, because you're afraid that if they're not the person you think they should be for things to turn out well for them, that you're just afraid of that. So you try and control and try and manipulate, and it's out of a good desire, but it's unhealthy and it causes anxiety. The last three, sometimes we can manipulate others. So this is, I guess, point number 5. Manipulate others to change others' actions or their perceptions of us. So I was thinking about what you had said last night, Christy, when if I don't quit, then I get to have people who are happy with me, happy with my decisions. And so sometimes um, we put way more energy, which tires us out, into maintaining the peace or maintaining the acceptance that we receive from others by not living the life we want and being true to ourselves. Last two. Um, Number six is a sign of control is drama. So, drama distracts you from your personal life and from your situation at hand. It gives you a reason to not have to pay attention to it, much like a schedule that's too busy. It gives you that dopamine hit, but it's so short-lived, kind of like sugar, right? We don't get the lasting payoff of real transformation if we always have to deal with drama. And then the last controlling sign is telling yourself lies. So this really segues into my story. When we tell ourselves lies, then we don't have to look at our true feelings that came up last night. What are we noticing, right? What are we paying attention to? We started talking about emotions. Emotions need our attention before we can change them. We can't bury them to overcome them. We have to look at them. And so let me tell you about a time when I was trying to control and almost manipulate my own emotional state and not be honest with myself about how I was feeling frustrated and embarrassed and impatient and all these feelings. Definitely nervous because I was telling myself lies. So last spring, I went through a real financial hardship, and it was really, really uncomfortable. And there was a few reasons that I pinpointed because I actually felt the need to document the experience. And I have most of it written down in a document if you would like the breakdown of my steps. So I got into this situation not just because of the economy or not because of um, how the world was turning in other parts of the world, not not because of other people, but because of these problems. So as you listen to my story and you think about an area in your life that you may have been trying to control instead of trust and believe things are um, turning out for your good, your situation might not involve money, but try and think about what it is that's causing you anxiety. What's the focus of your attention as I walk you through these points about the problems that held me back from making the money that I was used to making and that provided me with the lifestyle that I want to live, and then the solutions that I'm going to walk you through. So, one of the problems that held me back was I was focused on lack and what I could see that I didn't have. So all of my attention was on the problem and not the solution. Or I'm spiritual, so not the solution provider, my creator, God. I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on the problem. And so when you're focused on lack, because that's all that you can see through your human eyes is what you think your reality is, because you don't have as much money or love or appreciation, or people aren't behaving in the ways you want them to behave in. If you see that with your human eyes, then you think it's real. But I learned last year how important it is to focus on the unseen world and bring in a new reality with your thoughts and emotions and actions, instead of thinking that the only truth is what you can see. This might sound like totally out there, but it's definitely science based as well as very spiritual. The science base of it is that what we focus on, our reticular activating system shows us proof of. So we see more and more proof of a new reality when we're creating from the inside out. So when I'm talking with clients, I call this the inside out method or inside out creation. So yeah, that was the first problem that was causing me to stay in this place of financial lack. Was I was focused on the problem. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I don't have enough money, and that um, made me start thinking thoughts that were fearful and doubtful. Like, oh well, and this was the controlling part when you're thinking lies. Um, People don't want my help right now, and that was like me laying a nice blanket over my fear and discomfort, like tucking it into bed. It's okay. Um, could you please go to bed, go to sleep? I don't want to hear you or see you, emotion, because you're too uncomfortable. And plus, people don't want my help right now. And it's not the right time of year. And all these lies, nobody's wanting that specific strategy, or nobody's online right now. So my thoughts, the lies that I was believing, um, I was trying to use them to control my fear and say, shh, 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 be quiet. You're too uncomfortable. So that didn't help. And then the last problem that stopped me from making progress and feeling like I could feel calm, even when things were going completely backwards and I wasn't getting the results I wanted to financially. I was trying to do things, I was holding on to, this is a really important point, holding on to the old way of doing things that felt comfortable and I knew produced results, where I could help people through my business. And it was just like smooth sailing. I would offer a service or a program, and people would say yes, and they would be helped, and I would make money, and they would be happy, and like fairy tale, right? So I was holding on to something which was the old way of doing things, instead of, well, and by the way, that was very tiring and I wasn't seeing any progress, so very frustrating for that period of time. Versus the new idea that, and this will tie into last night's call, that kept popping into my mind for me to pursue. It's like I had this. So there was a book event that I put on in November last year, and I kept thinking, prepare for that event, prepare for that event, prepare for that event, and I thought, oh, but that's so far away, and uh, I feel so embarrassed that I'm not making the income that I'm used to making, and I was so ashamed, which is really interesting. It was important for me to feel the feeling. Anyways, think for yourself right now as you're listening what you might be trying to hang on to that's the old way of doing things that produced results for you in the past, that you're trying to control, right? We can use the old way of doing things as a way of feeling comfortable and at peace and calm inside, instead of the new way of doing things that your heart is leading you to pursue, even though it doesn't make sense to you or it's new to you. So those were the problems that were holding me back. And I remember talking to my coach in kind of early summer, and I told her my thoughts. Oh, nobody's interested right now. She goes, I'm calling you on that. She said, who stops being interested in making money, feeling joyful, feeling calm, moving a big project forward? Do you think they stop feeling that way because it's summer? And I was like, oh, okay, I'm being challenged. But as hiring her as my coach, of course, that's what I want to. And she really challenged my thinking. And I felt like I'd been hit in the heart, like hit in the bullseye. She's right. I've just been telling myself a lie or lies. And so I want to share with you some of the solutions that really helped me, because this has a lot to do with building that trust muscle, that belief muscle in periods where you're in a transition or you're in the fog, like we talked about, like you're feeling blind as you step into the unknown territory in front of you, and you'd rather control so that you feel safe, like, give me a flashlight, give me a floodlight so I can see 30 feet ahead in the dark, versus walking by faith, not by sight, walking by belief before you can see it become your reality. And I got to tell you, after practicing this for years, it has become more of a fun game and less uncomfortable, because anything that you practice, you get better at. And you're going to take more soul nourishing, exciting risks than you took in the past. And your confidence will grow, and your belief in yourself will grow, because you're actually taking care of your needs and honoring what matters to you. So let's hop into the solutions. I've got 7 of them for you tonight. There are many more from my document of this experience, but I picked 7. So, solution number 1 is to identify the old way or the old routine or habit that you need to let go of, that old way of getting the result that you want. So, we're talking about calmness and joy, right? So, what was the old way that you got calmness and joy? Mine was like a specific way of building business, connecting with people, um, serving them, helping them get results, right? Mine was an old way of doing that. But what's your old way of what you need in order to feel calm, or in order for you to feel joy, that you're feeling a little bit apprehensive of letting go of? You might want to reflect after this call, or we can talk about it as well. So, solution number 2 is to be open to your feelings instead of pushing them down or pushing through them like a bulldozer. I've been known to be a bulldozer, and it's not effective. It just prolongs the feeling. We can't bury our beliefs to overcome them, remember? Solution number 3 is to use this time of discomfort or transition, maybe you're in, or this foggy time where it's the unknown, or maybe it's a valley time in your life. Use it to bring out the best in you instead of the worst in you. And use it to bring out that creator side in you, that side that is powerful and capable and insightful and discerning and wise. Like, look for wisdom and knowledge and opportunities right there in the valley, or right there in your uncomfortable experience, so that you can be learning and receive the richness right at the time you're meant to have it. Because there's no season in our lives where we're never meant to grow. So, what's your opportunity right now that you can seize? So, make sure you're allowing it to bring out the very best in you. Solution number 4 is to find every reason to sing and celebrate and be thankful. This is part of the inside out creation process. No matter what is showing up in your life, decide you are going to find something to be thankful for, something to celebrate about. Like, make up some lyrics of your own song for right now that involves you creating a new reality. If you are wanting more money or more love or more appreciation or more security or more joy, it's not going to come sometime in the future. You need to intentionally cultivate it now in your heart and in your mind in the present moment, in this day, if you're to ever maintain it no matter what circumstances are happening, which is why intentional celebration before breakthrough happens is a total necessary skill. It's like you're going back to spiritual school or the spiritual gym. Solution number 5 is to decide that your peace won't be dependent on your circumstances. And it relates to number 4. It's deciding that you are going to feel peaceful now. And we can talk about specific ways, tangible practices that I adopted last year. And I had practiced those things before in my life, but I saw a real shift when I took these tangible habits and made them consistent. And they definitely deepened my peace, deepened my sense of calmness and ability to maintain calmness, no, instead of being, tossed around like a wave. Solution number 6 is to seize the opportunity to prepare in the waiting period. Waiting doesn't have to be stagnant. In waiting periods of life, we are always preparing, or we're always taking care of something, maintaining. So those waiting periods don't have to rob you of joy just because you're not seeing change yet. You can prepare, and we're meant to prepare. So, for example, last year when I was going through that valley myself, and oh my goodness, did I ever feel the depths of the valley? Like it was so uncomfortable. I I knew that it was a rich opportunity that I'd been given to prepare for a new season in my life and my business. I just had that sense, when you just know your heart's telling you, hey, use this. You might be afraid, but use this time. So, how could you prepare in your life with the ideas you're thinking of while I'm teaching for what you feel could quite possibly be coming next, that good thing that could be coming next that your heart desires? For that woman who I met with, she decided that how she could prepare before anything changed you know, um, in her scene world, before any results shifted, she could take time in the early morning to create like a really deep mental and spiritual reset time for herself. So she decided she was going to meditate and do yoga on a consistent basis to create this new solid foundation of calmness in her life. For myself, I prepared by creating new training material, new tools for clients that I knew that I would meet. I just could see them in my mind's eye. I created, last year was when I published my book. So I was working on all the steps that were needed so that that could be finalized. So often when we think things aren't shifting, that time is a gift for you right now. So, what's the gift and the opportunity? Seize that opportunity to prepare. It's exciting, and you can be an opportunist that way. So, the last step is to focus on the one step in front of you, only the one step in front of you. Otherwise, big shifts, if you're going through a big shift, can really rock you. And you don't need that. You're not meant to be focused on more than one thing at a time and spreading yourself thin. There's proof that multitasking just isn't effective. It's not productive. Even though we'd all love to feel like it is, we're not as effective. So as I walked through the summer months, things started shifting in my business. And as I started shifting my focus from what, excuse me, one second. What I could see in the scene world to starting to create with new thoughts. And I literally, this is one of my tactics. would write them in the notes on my phone, and I would put them in reminders on my phone that popped up, no joke, 10 times a day, different reminders. And then I would read the reminder. I would take time to feel how that felt in my heart. Then I would say it out loud over myself. Then I would say it out loud over myself while I was walking. I have a whiteboard behind me right here. And anything that I needed to change a belief around, I would write the new belief that I wanted my reality to be on that board, and I would work at it like I was a student. And I needed to pass, not needed to pass the test. I needed to, yeah, learn something new, right? Apply myself. The reminders on my phone shifted my inner reality like nobody's business, because even though friends would see them when I went swimming and my alarm would go off and they'd have to turn my alarm off and see my affirmation, it was, it started to, like, no joke, joy started to flood into my life because I was taking control and responsibility for how I wanted to feel, instead of waiting to feel it, instead of blaming anyone else, instead of lying to myself. I decided that I was going to do whatever was necessary tangibly with my hands, as well as, creating new input from my mind so that I could feel the way I wanted to feel. And then that started impacting my actions. So I had an influx of new clients and contracts that started coming my way as I went through the summer and started practicing these new habits. And interestingly enough, as my focus shifted from fearful thoughts and doubting thoughts to how can I help people, instead of lack, to what do I want the focus to my of my attention to be, then things started shifting because I was in creative mode then, right? And I wasn't filling myself. If you think of yourself as a vessel, or like as a glass of tea, you're either filling yourself unintentionally, usually, with fear. I was filling myself with fear, with self doubt, with frustration. So we're filling ourselves with those things we don't want to feel, anxiety, or we're filling ourselves with faith and trust. We're filling ourselves with joy and expectation. So, what do you want to be intentional about? You have to be intentional about this kind of stuff, or outer circumstances will rule you when you're the master of your internal world. And you have so much power. So, my encouragement is start using it more often, and you're going to see changes. You're going to see changes happen and results shift. It's going to be really exciting. So, let me so then, yeah, then I was able to make more money than I've ever made. And my true joy was remembering that when I focus on the wrong things and I shift my focus back to the right things, and I'm not looking, because I realized I was looking to money for to feel stable. I was looking focused on money to feel secure. I was focused on money to feel successful. And okay, I wish I learned this lesson in the first year of my business, but sorry to say, I learned it in the 12th. And I guess I didn't need it back then. But the point being is, we can't wait for anything. That means that in order for me to feel secure and stable and good about myself, I need to have a specific amount of income coming in. And rationally speaking, you might be thinking, yeah, but Amy, we all need money and we all have needs and we need to make sure we can pay our bills. 100% agree. But I'm teaching on the spiritual side tonight. When you make those internal shifts, the seen world shifts and your results change as well. So let me open up if there are, does anyone want any specific coaching around something that you feel like you would like help to believe in before you see it shift, or trust about instead of try to control, or anyone want to share an insight? Anyways, I'm available for coaching for the next like 10 minutes. So the floor is yours.
Hi.
Hi,
I
Yanni.
was walking the doggies. I was just coming home from work, but I'm glad I could catch you for a while.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what kind of reminders you set. Like, what did you put in there?
Oh my goodness, I'm serious. There was like, here, let me see if I can find some. And Yanni was part of my program from Passion to Profit. And so, Yanni, I can also share that in the group too.
Okay, sure.
I can share some of them, but let me see.
I love setting reminders. I remember nothing without my phone reminders. So maybe it makes sense that, I don't remember to think that I'm awesome.
Yeah.
If it's not my phone telling me so.
Yeah. Okay, just one second.
You can also send it later. I don't want to take time away from anyone. Whatever works.
I have a number of documents actually in my, hang on one sec. So I'm going to say them fast because there's a lot of them.
Okay.
And then I will share some of them with you in our group.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so I have in this document, I have what I used to believe about money. So my old money story. And so I'll share a few of those, and then I'll share with you what I now believe. And this is just like skimming the surface of the new beliefs that I've adopted, because this is an older document. So what I used to believe was making money is hard, that I'm not good at making money. I didn't know that I was believing that until somebody told me that I was good at making money. And I was like, I'm not good at making money. She just told me I'm good at making money. So I believed that I wasn't good at making money. I believed that making money doesn't come naturally to me like it does to some other people. Having a lot of money is somehow bad or wrong. I'm not good at managing money. Okay, so it just goes on and on. Those are some of my old beliefs. And then some of my new beliefs that I believe now. I'm worthy of receiving a lot of money. Prosperity, success, and joy is my birthright. It's not wrong, it just is. There's always more than enough money, more than enough time, and more than enough energy to do and be what and who I want to. My unique skill sets are invaluable and transformational. By the way, it also feels really good to read them. It shifts your emotional state. Success and abundance is meant to be mine, and that doesn't take away from anyone else's success and abundance. When I can't see it happening, money is still coming to me. It's on its way. So those are some of them. Oh, here's my ties into tonight's training. I live by faith, not by sight. I'm actually thinking of getting that tattoo, something like that. Money comes to me every day, and it's so much fun. So that's why we need to celebrate small successes, right?
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing those.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Anyone else have a question or an insight as we wrap up?
I have one.
Sure.
Which is interesting. I'm still figuring it out. I just have to find it. But I actually think that maybe I am working on myself too much.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
In the sense that what am I hanging on to in the old way that I've done? And I wasn't, to me, when I first read that, it wasn't about how I received calmness and joy, but actually it probably is. But I work so hard to make sure that I am not the catalyst for a difficult, uncomfortable, poor, or relationship. And maybe, and it has nothing to do with me. So I think that the old thing that I've been hanging on to is consistently going back to self, to try and change self, to try and observe, to try and be, oh my gosh, I'm actually might cry about this because
You go ahead.
I'm just so fucking tired. Um, that maybe it's actually not me. So I work really hard to try and find my part and this and that. And even when, if I have a rant with my dad, I say, Dad, rant is coming. You're only going to hear the negative. You don't hear the perspective of the other person. I may have read it completely wrong, like I qualify it. When in fact, sometimes people, they cut their own stuff and they show up in really crappy ways. And I can bear the brunt of that, and it actually has nothing to do with me. Sometimes facts are facts, they're not just my perspective. So, anyway, so that was something I was thinking about, which I'm going to unpack later when I can bawl my eyes out, not in front of you guys. But
Thank
it's
you
good.
so much,
It's
Christy.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I can say this, I've noticed that you're like almost hyper vigilant in that area, right? So maybe it is to do with control.
Yeah, it's really tiring.
Yeah. And that's a sign that I know when I'm controlling because I'm pushing something or I'm trying to, yeah, it's just tiring. And that's a sign.
Mhm. I just don't want it to be my fault.
Yeah. And so you
Yeah.
can control so that you don't have to face the fear.
Yeah.
Um, love you. Thank you for being so open. I'm glad you had that breakthrough insight. All right. Anyone else have any last questions or insights? Anything that was the most valuable to you? I'd love you to pop it into the chat.
I guess I could speak my, as we were talking or I was listening to you, I could identify my old way of doing things, which is more like, I'll just power through this. I'll just do everything that needs to be done in the house myself because I do it the best anyway. So I may as well just do it all, get it done, and then we don't have to talk about it. Then I can rest. But our house is really big and the family is big, and it's just there's not enough of me to do it all and have time for myself. So
Yeah.
you need to find a new way.
Great realization.
Yeah.
So freeing when we can see more of ourselves and more of our habit.
I do have a need to control people or my circumstances or my surroundings. So that's part of it. It is tiring in the end.
Yeah. And something that might be helpful, Sonia, is deciding for yourself, what do I think my limits have to be moving forward around house stuff? What is overextending and what is I'm still happy doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
then ask yourself and maybe make a list or draw a picture depending on how you process. Um, what am I intentionally deciding not to care so much about moving forward? And then it can slowly like dissolve off of you the grasp it had on you it needs to be this way, or this is the only way, those talons will start to loosen, especially when you're intentionally deciding, which means to cut off from, deciding what you will no longer care so much about. I remember talking to a woman, this woman was interviewing me actually for her podcast, and she said, it took me having a brain aneurysm. No, it wasn't brain aneurysm, but it was crazy stuff happened to her health wise. A stroke. Took me having 2 strokes and ending up in the hospital and fluid coming out of her ears and having to lay flat for like 3 weeks to choose to stop caring about things like, well, there's dog hair everywhere. Like she was one of those people that needed to have everything done to this level, right? And everything mattered to her. And if it wasn't done to that level, then it would stress her out. She wouldn't have peace. She wouldn't have that calmness. So what are we going to decide intentionally to stop caring about, and what will we still choose to care about? It's like drawing a clear line in the sand. And it doesn't mean that the housework doesn't have to be done, or doesn't get done, but it gets done in a new way, and some things maybe look different. I don't know.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing. And thank you everyone for showing up and attending. Give yourself a hand. Really appreciate you, and applauding you for taking the time to prioritize yourself, because you always gain an insight, which it sounds like everyone did. So that's my goal of every class. Tomorrow is our last class, and I've got exciting things to announce. I have 2 summer opportunities to work with me, and the doors will be open to my Recalibrate program for July and August. And then a couple coaching spaces are opening up as well for private coaching, just for the summertime, for a shorter period. But I'll tell you more about that tomorrow, and what's all entailed, included. And if you partake in the homework every day that I post in the Facebook group, then I'm also putting people's names in a hat for a free strategy session with me. But you got to do the homework for every day on the Facebook group. Okay, have a wonderful evening, and rest well and soak in that new insight.
Thanks, Aim.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Take care. Bye, everyone.